to record, but it will not let me record. So here we go. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, so hi folks, Rick Napora, counselor, Newbury Park High School. What you see on the screen before you is just a Google search for Newbury Park High School. The reason being is because we used to be nphs.org and people couldn't find us because we lost that domain. So now we're unified across the district. Best thing to do is just Google it, bookmark it. Once you get to the Newbury Park High School webpage, we're going to go to counseling. And then when you see the counseling website on the left-hand side, we're at course registration here on the left. When you click on that, we break it down by grade level. So we're just going to go down here to rising freshmen. We have the important dates. We have the course selection contract, which we'll be discussing this evening. And so you could print that out if you so desire. This is the slideshow right here that I'm going to click on. And then by tomorrow morning, bright and early, we'll have this recording posted as a video at the link right below. So with that, we're on to the freshman presentation. This is what it looks like right here. And off we go. So again, Rick Napora, the other counselors are here in the meeting with us. I'll let you guys go ahead and read their names and their alphabets. The alphabet is what your student is going to be assigned to the alpha counselor throughout their 4 years at Newbury Park High School. Sometimes the alphabet may change slightly, just depending upon the breakdown of our incoming class. And so if you ever need to find out who the counselor is, how to contact us, it's there on the website down below. What we ask up in advance is, I know a lot of parents are excited about their kids coming to Newbury Park and they want to have lots of conversations. So tonight I'm going to try and answer as many of the most common questions we get. We would love it if you would hold questions until the end if you can, because I'm probably going to cover what 99% of you are thinking. And then going forward, when your students are selecting classes and you want to know what's an appropriate course load, is this course harder than that course? We ask that you work with your current teachers and your current counselors because they know your student at the moment far better than we do. So with that, we're on to the next slide, which is your counselor. So counselors are available to help students with academic planning and course selection. We're also able to help them with college and career planning and preparation. That could also mean trade school, et cetera, et cetera. And we also provide social and emotional support and interventions when necessary. To contact the counselor, and the reason after is underlined is what I spoke of earlier, the new school year begins. Students can literally walk into the office, and that's what we prefer. We would love face-to-face interactions with students far more than email. I know that post-COVID, a lot of kids were used to either emailing everybody and not actually having an interaction or having their parents interact on their behalf. But again, we would love it if the students would actually come, introduce themselves during walk-in times, which would be at break or at lunch or before school or after school. That's the best way if a student has a quick question to just come and see us. They can make an appointment if they think it's going to take longer with Miss Bernstein or Miss Reyes, both of whom work in the counseling office. That's great if it's a question that's going to take some time. They could email the counselor, but again, face-to-face best. Parents, please encourage your students to advocate for themselves by coming to see us or email us if they can't make it in person. The requirements to graduate from Newbury Park High School are as follows. Every student will earn 10 credits per class per year. So English, 4 years, 40 credits, 10 credits each year. Math, 3 years or 30 credits, including Algebra 1. Science will be 2 years, 20 credits. Social science does not begin until grade 10, so the kids won't have to worry about it as a rising ninth grader, and it will be 3 years, 30 credits. PE sports is 2 years or 20 credits anytime before they graduate. So we'll talk about that a little later. Health, they need a half of a year or 5 credits. And then this is one that confuses most people. Students do not need all of these. They need one or the other. They need either a year of a visual performing art, also known as VPA, or they need a year of a world language, also known as a world language, and then a CTE, which is called Career Technical Education. So if your students were to take one of those 3 things for a year, it would satisfy that requirement. And then finally, electives, 75 credits of literally anything that a student wants to take for which they meet the prerequisite. That's a grand total of 230 credits. And for those of you who are math savvy, If a kid takes 60 credits the first 3 years, that's 180. That leaves 10 credits of wiggle room for senior year. And some kids always ask, can I get a free period as a senior? And if they fail nothing throughout their high school years, the answer is yes. So if a kid earns a D as in dog, that means they will get credit and that will put them toward graduation. That's very different than what I'm going to go over in a second. And they have to pass Algebra 1 as part of that math. Now, if a student wants to be eligible minimally to attend a college down the road, there's what's called the A through G requirements. That term was coined from the University of California many years ago. It was simply a designation per letter for subject. So history, subject A, kids need 2 years, but remember, we make them take 3, so they're covered. English, we make them take 4. The UCs require 4, good to go. Math, unlike just the 3 years that you need to graduate from Newbury Park, kids who want to be minimally eligible need 3 years, including Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And then lab science, I'll just put this out there. Earth science, despite what parents might have heard or siblings have told them, does count as a lab science. It's what the majority of our incoming 9th graders take. And so once they take that and one more lab science, they've met their 2 years. But notice down below it says 3 years recommended, just like math says 4 years recommended. And now we're down to language other than English. Even though you didn't need it to graduate Newbury Park High School, to be eligible for most four-year colleges, you will need 2 years of the same language. And if a kid has started it in middle school, say they're in Spanish 1 right now, and they take Spanish 2 in 9th grade, that is their 2 years. Colleges look at world language as what was the terminal course they took in high school, not numerically how many years did they take, but did they hit that second year? Visual performing art, you need that too, a year, a full year of that to be minimally eligible, unlike Newbury Park where you need one or the other. And then finally, they need what's called a G elective, which means an elective that could be from any of the aforementioned areas that was in excess of the minimum. Now, the big difference between these courses and what I spoke of on the earlier slide is that a student needs a C as in cat or higher in order to not only get the credits, but also to meet the college requirements of that minimum C or higher. There are some colleges that may not require it, but they are few and far between. So the main goal should be the minimum of a C and ideally much higher than that. Kids will be able to review transcripts and A through G status by using some software we have that we'll introduce once your students land at Newbury Park. The kids have to have at least Algebra 2 in the math. And again, remember, they recommend a 3rd year. The typical freshman lineup for what all your students should be taking are a total of 6 classes. Kids could take more than that if they so desire, but 6 is the minimum. And it's going to include English. It's going to include a math. It's going to include a science. It's going to typically include health 1 semester and ethnic studies the next semester, or vice versa, ethnic studies in the 1st semester and health 2nd, depending upon how this kid's schedule shake out. And then PE is what typical kids take. And then finally, they take an elective. It could either be the beginning of their language, the continuation of the language they started in middle school, literally any elective, again, for which they meet the prerequisite. The schedule at Newbury Park has changed a lot over the years, but here it is right in front of you. On a regular, typical day at Newbury Park, the kids get to school and their first period begins at 8:30. They will have a 100-minute class until 10:10, and then they will have a break from 10:10 to 10:15, 5 minutes, passing time, etc. Included in that would be the 10:15 to 10:25, so a total of 15 minutes, and then their next class starts at 10:25, and it goes until 12:05, after which they will have lunch, and lunch combined with passing is that grand total of 40 minutes, so 30 for lunch, 10 for passing. And then they land ideally in their next class, which is at 12:45. And then that will go until 2:25, at which point they are free to go home. The classes alternate, which means on one day we will have an odd day, like 135, and the next day would be an even day, 246. Hence, this in front of you with parentheses saying period 1 or 2. 1 or 2 is at the same time, and 3 or 4 is the same time, and 5, 6 is the same time. Our kids just look at a calendar and know whether it's an odd or an even day. You will see to the right of that the CPT, Common Planning Time Day Bell schedule. That's every Thursday and Friday. And on those days, the period 1 or 2 is 8:30 to 9:55, grand total of 85 minutes, slightly shorter. And then the break and passing, 15, then period 3 or 4, 85 minutes as well, 10:10, 8:30, 11:35. And then lunch, passing, grand total 40, on to their last period of the day, 5 or 6, 12:15, 1:40. They're done at 1:40. Ideally, the kids, after they finish that shorter day, would be going to the library and studying, or going to office hours with their teacher to troubleshoot things they might not have understood during the day, and on and on. We also have a period 0, which not all kids take, and a period 7, which not all kids take. And that'll make more sense when I get to the reg form. The course registration process is as follows. It'll be slightly different for our feeder schools versus kids that are coming in from out of district. Either way, there's going to be a course registration form, which I linked to earlier, and it's going to have to be signed and include alternates for each elective that the kids choose. The students within our feeder schools will meet with the counselor. We're going to start going to the middle schools. The middle schools, we're going to start going there and meeting with the kids individually. They're going to hand us their registration forms, all filled out, signed by the parent. And then at that point, while we're sitting with them, answering any questions they might have, we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter their coursework into Q. If you're a student who attends a non-feeder school within CVUSD, let's say one that typically would go to Thousand Oaks or Westlake High School, the current 8th grade counselor will have the appropriate registration form to get back to us at Newbury Park, and then that counselor will then send it to us, at which point we can load the courses and reach out if any questions remain. If you're an incoming student who is brand new to the district, who is not from anywhere within our district whatsoever, our registrar is going to kick off the enrollment process with you. And after you enroll and she gets everything that she needs, she will reach back out to you with links that you need to the registration forms and so forth. And then the counselors will take it over from there. So the registration dates that are super important are as follows. Sequoia, we're going to meet with the counselors to return the reg forms March 19th through the 20th. And then Sycamore Canyon, we're going to meet with the counselors. That's us, the counselors meeting with the students, returning the reg form on March the 18th. This is what the registration form looks like. You will see on the upper left-hand corner, it's upper left-hand corner of that form is going to be demographic information, student name, and so forth. We want the student to put their cell phone, because if it's summer and the schedule is broken and we need to get a hold of someone, generally the best person to speak with is the student, because they know if it's an elective they didn't want, et cetera, et cetera. We also want the parent home phone, student address that they actually check, parent email address as well in case we can't get a hold of the student. There is a QR code that you could scan, and then that'll take you to the instructions. But the short story for the instructions is we don't do teacher changes. A lot of students will be, well, my sibling had this teacher, or my friend has that teacher, or I'd love to be in class with my best friend. So what we simply do is we get the student's request, and then our data system, student information system, shuffles things where they'll fit, and that's what happens. So we can't plan out this class, this period, if you're an athlete, or this class, or we want all the quote unquote easy classes on one day and all the harder classes the next day. Like, that's something we have no control over. So those are schedule changes that we won't be considering. So once school starts in the fall and kids all get their schedule, we're going to turn the kids away that want those types of changes. The kinds of changes we're more than happy to do are those that would improve the integrity of the schedule. So let's say that Johnny chose foods as a rising 9th grader and then had a change of heart over summer and decided, I really should start my world language. We will happily entertain those kinds of schedule changes. Or let's say Johnny had a bad grade in algebra and wants to remediate in the summer to shore up any gaps that he might have had, and then wants to take geometry after that, not having met the prereq before the summer, but then over the summer meets the prereq, tells us, then we'll gladly switch Algebra 1 to geometry. Those are the kinds of things we're, again, happy to do. Athletics, we won't go into a lot of detail now. Just know that if a student is a fantastic athlete and they're going to play at the college level, it'll be great at some time prior to 11th grade for them to scan those QR codes and have a good idea of what it would take to play in college. We're going to make sure the kids are on track academically, core class-wise. But by the time they get to 11th, 12th grade and they start wanting to get a lighter schedule, some of them shouldn't be doing that. And then prerequisites, super important. We have links to course descriptions and also on this form in the middle of the screen. And the prerequisites are clearly listed next to each course. So that would mean if a student wants to take a course that's on that form before you, they have to meet the prerequisite in order to do so. If they do not, you will see below that it says honors placement, the prerequisite not having been met. And if the parent and student are adamant that they still want to take a class that we as counselors don't recommend because it probably won't go well, you can sign what's called an academic waiver form. There's a link to it on the counseling website where this presentation will be housed. You can just shortcut, go to links, go to honors placement, and it tells you all about what should be happening in order for a student to be successful in that level of a course, along with honors waivers right next door. So on the upper right hand of this form, you will see all that we need the students to fill out is they're going to pick their English class, which is super easy. It's going to be English 9 or 9 honors. Again, if a student doesn't know which one should I take, they should be having that conversation with their English teacher. And the parents could also jump in and say, well, I know you're ambitious and you want honors, but you're also, riding your mountain bike and having, friends. Are you going to have enough time to do that? So this is the same for every class. Math, we have a flow chart. But again, your student, if they're unsure, they should speak with the math teacher who could definitely steer them in the right direction of which math would be appropriate. Science, it's going to be either earth science or it's going to be biology honors. Typically, the kids that take biology honors have done extraordinarily well in their middle school honors level science classes. And if not that student and they don't want that level of rigor, then earth science is fine. It meets the UC and CSU requirement as well as other colleges in North America for a lab science. And then they're going to take a health class. You will see it's mixed with ethnic studies. So all they really need to do is put health, or they don't even have to put anything. If they're going to take health and ethnic studies, the box is already filled out for them. If for some reason the student absolutely feels that I just can't, take health at Newbury Park, it doesn't fit, or my friend said I should do this, they will have the option, as you see below, to put the course they would take in lieu of health. And then if they do so, that's considered an elective. And by doing that, they need 2 alternates for that elective choice. We at Newbury Park just recommend that kids take health and ethnic studies at Newbury Park. Fantastic courses, both of them. There's literally no reason for kids to scramble to take health or anything else in the summer unless they're remediating or taking a course of interest that we don't offer. More about that later. PE, if a student is not an athlete, they're going to take a PE class. We have several from which to choose. One is, for example, PE. The other is weight training. The other is dance. We have another one called Unified PE. Another one that's online PE. So there's lots of different types of PE. Again, if a student is unable to take PE, physical limitation, etc., they are an athlete and they play a sport every year for which they get credit at Newbury Park, they could then, in lieu of PE, put a course, which you will see on the form about halfway in that block where it says course. That's only for a student who doesn't need PE during the school day or even after the school day. And then they would put the alternates for that course because at that point, the course would be considered an elective. And then finally, the last block, even though it says elective, a lot of the college-bound students, for example, would be taking a world language. If they're taking a world language and it's the second level, let's say Spanish 2, they won't need an elective because it's sequential and will guarantee we'll get them that next level. If they're taking a language for the first time, they're going to need alternates because let's say it's Chinese, which is very popular. And if they don't get Chinese, then they should put the next level language or the next language that they would like in lieu of that. And my plea to parents is let your students choose the language that most appeals to them. I know that, regionally certain languages might be more popular or more useful, but the likelihood of a student becoming completely bilingual by the time they leave high school, taking a language only in high school, is slim. So they should really enjoy whatever it is they select. And we have the most happy students who choose that. So you would put the language you want if it's a language. You would put the alternate if it's the first level language. And if you don't want a language at all because you don't have the need or desire to go right to a four-year school, or you want to start your language later, or you already speak a language and you want to take an AP test to display your command of that language, which can count for college credit, you could then put an elective in place of it. Then you would simply put the course and again, 2 alternates. And the alternates all need to be different. So if your kid has 2 electives listed, let's say block 5 and block 6, then they need 2 different alternates for each elective, which is a total of 4 different alternates. And then down below that, you will see, and this pertains to very few students, we offer 7th period classes, which if you will look to the right of your screen, are all listed. And if a student desires to take a 7th period class, they would simply write that first choice class in that box that says course. If that's the only class that they're considering for period 7, they do not need an alternate. And if they're taking that because they want to have a free period during the day, then they would simply line out like the elective number 6, put the class they want for number 7, and then we as counselors will know what it is they're attempting to do. And then finally, you will see another box at the bottom that says summer school. That's only if a student's considering taking something to accelerate, taking something to remediate, and by doing so, that they would need us as counselors to be aware of that so that we could change their schedule accordingly if summer school ends up working out. Right now, there's kids that are frantic trying to get classes they don't even know why they're taking in the summer. They're finding out that some places have a lottery, et cetera, et cetera. You do not have to jump into that frenzy. And you could simply take all the classes at Newbury Park for all 4 years and it'll be fine. The middle of the screen, you will see the course selection. So English, for example, English 9, no one needs a prerequisite. If you're going in 9 honors, you need to have Bs in your current English 8 honors or As in English 8 CP. As, plural, meaning both semesters. And then if it's a 9.1, that's a class that's reserved for students who have an IEP. And if any parents have a student who has an IEP, rest assured that what we will do is we will follow the IEP as written from the middle school. And then our case managers will take that information and let us as counselors know which specific courses those students need per that IEP. So down the list, you'll see the math and the science and the physical education and so forth. And then you'll start seeing the electives. So if it's not on this registration form, that means it's not available to that particular grade level. So before students or parents start asking us, how come I don't see AP psychology on here? Or how come I don't see, XYZ on here? It's just because certain things are only open to certain grade levels of students. And then finally, again, on the right, you will see not only the period 7 classes of which I spoke earlier, you will also see the period 0 classes. There's really nowhere to put those on the reg form because all of them are audition or application required, meaning that the student's going to have to reach out to the teacher. It's linked to on the counseling website with the teacher emails for those auditions and applications. And then if a student is accepted, the teachers will provide us a roster, and then we will add students to those courses. Period 7, once again, they meet after the school day, and if you look to the right, it'll tell you which day it meets, and it's typically 1 or 2 days. The rest of the time is completely up to the student to follow through. So before any of your students think that that sounds like a fantastic idea, you should take a step back and ask yourself if your student, by being in such a class, would actually do all the work expected without you haunting them. So if you have a student that's extraordinarily self-motivated, good self-advocator, uses time wisely, then sure, a period 7 hybrid class could be great. But if a student's just taking it so they can have a free period, that's not always the best use of time or an idea. And then down below, it doesn't pertain to most incoming 9th graders, but you will have a QR code you can scan and you could have a look at what's called the Career Education Center and the classes they offer, which would include things like welding and auto mechanics and drone building and certified nurse assistant and those sorts of things. General information, I already covered that, so I'll skip through. That's the demographics of which I spoke. The athletics, this is just a blown up version of, like, again, what I talked about. If you have a kid that's an athlete, they should scan the QR code and review the various, NC2A and NAIA requirements. The
Mr. Napora?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just wanted to point out to everybody that is maybe overwhelmed by the registration form that everyone could just do the best they can. We're going to be meeting one-on-one with your student. So we will make sense of it. If there's something that's missing, we will make sure to add it. I just don't want anybody to worry. And right wherever you think it goes, and it's just your counselor that's going to see it. So we will make sense of it when we meet with your student.
Yes, there's a lot of words on there. So we know it could be overwhelming, especially if this is your first rodeo with an incoming high school student. So know that we also will get a transcript from our feeder school. So we'll know kind of in our heads what we think the student, could or should be taking. So that in addition to whatever effort you're able to put into the form, between those things, we're confident that we can correctly place your students. And then the course selection, again, this is a much larger version of what I spoke of earlier. Again, to reiterate, English 9 or English 9 Honors, whichever math your student should be taking as the next sequential course. If you don't know what that is, talk to your student's math teacher and they can review our course descriptions. And if they're in like an integrated math that doesn't line up exactly with algebra and geometry, the current math teacher should be able to read our course description and then go ahead and decide which course would be appropriate. Science is going to be earth science, or it's going to be biology honors. It's going to be health and ethnic studies. On to number 5, it's going to be some flavor of PE or an elective if your student is an athlete and doesn't need PE. And then finally, an elective for most kids that are college bound, it's going to be a world language. For students that aren't interested in that, it's going to be straight up elective. And then the English class, there they are again. And the math class, so now this is like a visual for you. These are the courses we offer listed before you. You will see a flow chart. So for example, we have 2 sequences of math. One is traditionally referred to as the college prep math course, which will get a student eligible for colleges in North America. The next is the honors math course. And that's for kids who are extraordinarily interested in math, generally gifted in math, great management skills and self-advocacy. So if a student right now, for example, is in pre-algebra, they would take algebra 1. If a student's in algebra 1, they would take geometry. If a student's in geometry, algebra 2. Student in algebra 1 honors, generally geometry honors. So as you can see from the flow chart, you can simply look at the course and it will start to make sense. And if it doesn't, again, talking to the student's current math teacher would be highly recommended. The same for science. As I spoke of earlier, the students will have either biology honors or earth science, or the earth science per the IEP. And then this is the flow chart. There's really 2 paths. One is the biology honors on to chem honors. And that's for, again, the highly motivated, gifted, I love science students who ideally would have had honor science in middle school with good grades. And then the majority of kids take the other sequence, which is earth science in grade 9, then biology in grade 10. And so by the time your kids are rising juniors, then the options really start to pan out. So for example, if you're a CP student in bio, you can go the chemistry route or marine science or anatomy or physics. And if you're on the honors route, by then students generally figure out which one they lean more towards, than the other, and they could jump into IB science or AP. PE class, again, these are the ones we offer. It's going to be dance or it's going to be intermediate dance, but you would need to dance for the teacher and she would tell us whether or not you're intermediate dance or not. And then dance team, that one's pretty brutal. We have an extraordinary dance team and that's also audition. PE 9 is for anybody who wants to PE. Weight training, same thing. Sports officiating, which is new this year, is for anyone who's interested in not only earning PE credit, but also learning the officiating side of PE and sports and so forth. And from what I've been told, there's some sort of either certification or some sort of thing that at the end of the officiating, the kids will kind of have a leg up if they want to pursue that kind of thing in the future, maybe make some money on the side when they're officiating a game and so forth. And then unified PE, that's specifically set up for students who might have some disabilities and limitations. And what will happen is we get able-bodied students in that class to assist the other students. And it works out fantastic because the students are super appreciative and are students that are altruistic, that are in that experience, rave about it. So that's teacher approval required as well. And then electives and alternatives, and I touched upon it briefly earlier so you could see it all in front of you. But if a student is going to take an elective or try to get in an elective, they just need two different electives, alternates for every single elective. Example, I'm going to take foods. If I don't get foods, I'm going to take theater 1. And if I don't get theater 1, I'm going to try for art media. Our computer will try its hardest to get them into their first choice. If it doesn't happen, for whatever reason, it'll try their first place alternate. And if that doesn't work, it'll try the second place alternate. So the big mistake kids make is they put the main alternate or the main elective, and then they're like, oh, I'm just going to put whatever for the alternates because I don't care. And then school rolls around in the fall, they find out they didn't get their first choice, and then they all want to come and see us, or the parents want to call us because they really didn't want those other two alternates. So to avoid all of that, make sure they are classes that a student would be thrilled to take for 36 weeks if their first choice didn't pan out, and maybe even if their second choice didn't pan out. And then 7th period, again, this is a colorful version of what I showed you earlier with the classes that are available 7th period. And on the left of the screen, you will see that 7th period block that you don't have to fill out if you don't want a 7th period. You could simply put a big X in it. Otherwise, you would put the class that you would love to have that period, and there's no alternate needed unless it's an elective. But as you can see on that form, there's very few electives. Most of them are core classes. And again, the reason why some kids take period 7 is because they're an athlete and they need a break between like the end of the day every other day and going off to their sport. That would give them an unscheduled period. They might need to sleep in because they have obligations outside of school, and it would be nice to, if they had to stay up late, to sleep in early, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you would want to make sure your student is a good fit for that. Summer school would be, again, ideally to remediate a class if so desired, to repeat a D or an F, or to meet a prerequisite. You can accelerate if you would like. If you're going to accelerate, again, I'm going to reiterate, you do not need to take health in summer. You don't need to take PE in summer. And what could happen if you do either or both, which some people like trip over themselves trying to do, what that then means is kids have big open spots in their schedule. And in theory, it sounds great. You're like, wow, my kid can really explore the electives. But because our school is staffed as if all 9th graders would be taking health and ethnic studies, for example, that means if a bunch of kids do it in summer, we're not going to have electives for them to take. Most likely not their first choice, or maybe their second choice, or even their third choice, or they might find out there's absolutely nothing they want to take that year with those big gaps in their schedule. So before kids even go down that road, just keep in mind that ideally the only kids who would be taking something in summer school are those for whom it's a necessity. Example, let's say you have a kid that wants to be in theater and also wants to be on dance team and also wants a world language. In that particular scenario, they're going to run out of spots because theoretically they could only have one elective. So if they're taking something that they've been involved in for several years, band, for example, they've already got a background in theater and want to continue it. They've been dancers since they were 3 and they want to be on dance team. For those kids, summer school might be a possibility. And if that's the road you want to go down, we have it posted on the counseling website with various opportunities. We as a district only offer remediation, but there are other programs, as you can see, including the ones with asterisk. That means they are fee-based. And we don't think that you should have to pay. Excuse me. And then there's one called the there, don't know where my voice went. The other one's called Canal Schools Foundation Get Ahead program. That's also fee-based. That's not actually our district per se, but it is a fantastic booster club that helps us raise money for programs. And they also offer coursework in acceleration with some honors level courses. And then there's the ones that are free. So typically in the summer, if it's a public high school, you can be in one program at a time for free. So Ivy Tech, Method, Opportunities for Learning, Rivers Oaks, Silicon Valley High School, those are all options. And again, if they're fee-based, generally you could take them even during the school year if you so desire. But again, I don't recommend just willy-nilly taking summer courses unless there's a reason for doing so. You will also see that community colleges are an option, which is listed on there. The only reason it has an asterisk is because there's some mild fees for, like, I think health or parking or something like that. The thing is whatever it is that you choose, if you do choose it, it needs to be accredited. And it's up to you as the parent to make sure that it's accredited. We don't keep a list of the thousands of schools out there and whether they're not accredited. So if you're going to pay any money whatsoever, you need to make sure it's accredited. Otherwise, you might get a transcript and spend thousands of dollars and find out it's not going on our transcript or won't count towards graduation. If you do decide, yes, I am taking a summer school course, then again, you'll put the course you plan to take, you'll put the location of that course, and then if it's going to affect your schedule, you would put the course you want if that happens. So perfect example, let's say a kid is going to take health, and let's say they're going to take it at a fee-based place. So you're absolutely certain it's happening and you've already paid the money. And then you would put the course, if the student is going to take health in summer that they want, let's say art media, and then you're going to put your two alternate choices like color and design or theater. That's the purpose of this actual form, that particular block. Signature. So when everything is all said and done, you've had the discussion, you've decided whether or not this is really what you want. The student will sign, the parent or guardian will sign, and you will date it. And then what will happen would be you're indicating your approval. So when the students bring us that contract, we keep it on file. We just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that school doesn't start. And then, why is my student in this class or that class? So please make sure that you review it fully before it gets back to us. And if you're not from the district currently, you can save the form. And then when the registrar reaches out to you, and then we need to contact you and get a copy of that form sent to us, and we'll be able to discuss it with you at that time. Honors and AP, super important. In theory, honors and AP sounds great. And you might have heard that colleges like honors and AP, and that may or may not be true depending on the college. But in order for a student to do this honors AP, they need to have a current background in honors and be earning that B, or they need, if they're in a CP class, they need 2 A's in order to move up a level. So let's say they're in English 8 and they're getting an A first semester, or they got an A first semester and they got an A the second semester. Then sure, they could move up, but again, they should be talking to their current teacher. You as the parent should be reviewing the syllabus from our English 9 honors, and then you should be able to determine based on all of that if it's going to be a good move. We will allow kids to change a schedule if needed, if possible. So let's say I'm a student, I decide to jump up to honors 3 weeks into the school. I decide it's way above me, way beyond me. What do? I'm miserable. I'm spending so much time, but my friend isn't. Then if you come to the counselor and say, I'd like to move down and level into CP, it could happen if there's space available. And even if there is space available, it might not be that same period. So to a rising 9th grader or that just landed and is getting used to the system, sometimes shuffling an entire schedule around is not going to have the effect that you want it to have. The student might have already met and made friends and so forth. So short story is, make sure that if you're going to choose an honors or an AP class, that you're very aware of this. And then finally, if everything I said, you're like, yeah, that's fine, we still want to try it. And if you don't meet the 2A requirement in the CP to move up, or if you're in the honors class and you have a C, then you're going to need to do the academic waiver, which we will keep on file. And then down the road, if something happens and a parent says, hey, you know, you said my kid could level down, we'll also remind them and say, yes, we also told you if space was available. Worst case scenario could end up as a student being in a study hall if they're not able to get into the level down course because other kids already dropped the higher level course into that. And that's again at the bottom why it's in bold about space available basis. So short story, choose wisely. IB program, I won't go into great detail because that's a course or sequence that starts in the 11th grade. Just note that the key term is highly motivated and capable. So generally the kids who opt to go IB have been in honors coursework and been really successful in it ever since the beginning of 9th grade. It's not a requirement that they have to do that, but in order to be the place you need to be in IB English 11, for example, you should have had English 9 honors and 10 honors and done extraordinarily well to prepare you for that. Same with science, same with the math. If you want more information, you can go to the pathway slides that are linked to in this, and it's got a video of our director of the IB program that goes into great depth. It also has sample pathways for kids because you might not be super, super strong in math and there's still an opportunity to go full IB and not have to take the highest level math. The same with language. They offer what's called standard level. So in short, it's somewhat complicated, but once you're able to view the pathway slides, you'll have more than enough information to decide if that's a program you're interested in, and what kind of mapping we need to do to get you there. And Ms. Doenshai, the coordinator, she has an email there at the bottom of the page as well. AVID stands for Advancement Via Individual Determination. And so at Newbury Park High School, it's a 4-year program. It's intended to be a 4-year program starting in the 9th grade. And it's structured in order to give students the tools they need to be successful in rigorous curriculum. So generally, like, let's say you're a first generation student that might not have all the tools and all the resources that some other students whose parents attended college might not have. It gives them a fantastic opportunity to equip them to like go forward. And then ideally at the end of the program, they would be enrolling and applying to and enrolling in colleges. So students in the AVID program will also be able to take dual enrollment courses at Moorpark College. And then by the time they're finished with AVID, they will be earning at least 30 transferable credits from Newbury Park High School. What's super important about AVID to know is that there's a profile typically representing the type of student that would be ideal. And that's like 2.0 to 3.5 GPA, because we need to make sure that they're capable of the academic work that's going to be in front of them. We want them to have college potential, even if it does require support, for that to happen. And the most important thing is their desire and determination. We shouldn't be like putting them in AVID. They should be aware of what AVID is, and then they should be, wow, that's a fantastic idea, and I am determined because this is what I want for myself. And then ideally they would have first in family to attend college, historically underserved in a 4-year college, or special circumstances with financial needs. So some students in AVID meet all of those criteria, some meet one, but a student should meet at least one of the criteria. There's an application there with a QR code, and there's also a course sequence to show you what that would look like throughout high school. And we also have it written in Spanish, so they can QR code that as well in either language. Frequently asked questions. So one is, can I meet with the high school counselor now? And the answer is no. It's a soft no. It's not like, no, you can't meet with us. It's like, no. And that's because you should be addressing the questions that you will often have with the current counselor. All of us will be answering questions this evening, but from this point going forward, if a student has questions or a parent has questions about the process, their current counselor is more than equipped to answer those kinds of questions. And again, if you're out of district parent or student, we will be reaching out to you after you're enrolled. Health and summer school, I already went over that a lot of times. You do not have to take health and summer school. There is a link that you can click with a lot more information about why you shouldn't. I won't go over that now. It's a lot of detail. Where can you take it? The answer is, if you're really adamant that you're going to take it, it could be any accredited school you want. That link with the here and clicking on that will take you to lists or examples I gave you earlier. But again, it's not comprehensive or exhaustive. Who signs dual enrollment? So if there are any students here thinking of taking a summer course at the community college, your current counselor is going to be signing what's called the MOU, or dual enrollment form. So we always get a million emails from kids saying like, hey, I'm going to be at high school next year. Can you sign this form? And the answer is no. Anything that's community college dual enrollment related, it's got to go through your current counselor. And then better. This is one we get all the time. What's better, an A in a CP or a B in an honors AP or IB course? I mean, the short, cheeky answer is an A in an H, AP or IB course. But what's more important than the question is, what is your student equipped to do? The right answer is, what would your student be able to take and challenging themselves at an appropriate level with a reasonable amount of work. So for some kids, that might mean they never set foot in an honors course, and that's not a big deal. There's literally hundreds of colleges that would be thrilled to accept your student that's never taken an honors course. Some colleges, in fact, don't even weight the GPA. So for those kids, taking all CP classes, even if they could take honors classes and getting all A's, is a strategy. So again, the short answer is it depends on the kid. Tips. We all want kids to have effective study skills. That's not always the case. Time management is crucial. Parents can help by putting aside like a common area in the house where they can kind of, make sure that their kids are actually studying and not like doom scrolling on like social media. They need to have established those study skills that'll serve them by the time they get to high school. Otherwise, they could fall behind. And then high school grades count, whereas middle school, even if they don't get the grades they might want, or they might not earn all the credits, they can still promote to high school. High school doesn't work that way. If they fail a class, they have to repeat that core class or else they don't graduate. Ideally, your student be seeking help when needed. That means our academic resources would include tutoring, meeting with the teachers, office hours. It doesn't or shouldn't mean kid comes home, says, I have no clue what's happening in math, and then you as a parent scrambling to buy a private tutor. Like, that is rarely effective. It might work great for the kids getting homework scores and happy faces on that, but ideally encourage your kids to communicate with and let the teachers know if and when they have any questions. Maintaining good grades, that goes without saying. And on the prior slide, as I mentioned, the key term is reasonably challenge yourself. Reasonably doesn't mean your kid's up until midnight. Adolescents are supposed to have anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. If your kid gets home from school and is doing 6 hours of homework, and then you force them to be in 3 clubs and play 2 sports, something's going to give. And it's generally like their anxiety is going to be through the roof, or they're going to be burned out of school before they ever set foot in a college campus. So it's great to be able to want your students to work and to rise to their potential, but there's definitely a tipping point and a fine balance. And then we recommend that students keep their college options open, even if they're not dead set on I'm going to a college today, then it would be nice to have the option down the road. Monitoring grades is key. So we use Q, which is our student information system for most things, but students also have access to what's called Canvas. Some of you at the feeder schools already are well aware of this. Parents should check, and regularly could mean daily. I know that you don't want to have to micromanage your kids because you're thinking they're young adults going into high school, but I can promise you that once kids figure out that you're not checking up on them, they're more likely to procrastinate and let things lapse. And what you don't want to get as a parent is a 5 or 6 week report that's got D's and F's all over it. And then you're like, why? How did this happen? And usually that happens as a result of the parents never having logged in to Q or Canvas, and then believing their student when their student comes home and says, everything's fine. So again, we as counselors get DNF reports, but you as parents logging in regularly will know that your student is struggling long before we will. And then students should be checking a 4-year planner. Once kids get to high school, they'll have a software program called California Colleges, and you guys can build out 4-year plans in that. Healthy lifestyle goes without saying. Enough sleep, and you can't do that if you have 6 honors classes, and you really should be in 1 or none. And nutritious foods. Kids eat crazy stuff these days. Special interest areas, and let me just say as an important note, students don't have to do these things. They don't have to do all of them. They may choose to do one or none. What's important is that if they are going to be involved, which we would love, is that it's something in which they are genuinely interested. I would not force a student to join a club just to join a club, or to volunteer just to volunteer. You should encourage your kids to find something they're passionate about. If they're not passionate about it yet, that's fine. They're still young, but they should be seeking it. And if they would like to do so, we have several ways they could. We have a lot of opportunities for extracurricular participation. If a student wants to play a sport, the thing to remember is they need that 2.0 or higher to participate. We have a lot of clubs, and if a student can't find quite the right club fit for them, they could even create their own club. And on the website for Newbury Park Counseling, I link to it. There's an actual drop-down with the process for a kid to start a club. We have a fantastic music program. We have as rigorous of courses as you would like. And IB, we're the only school in the district that offers IB, and that's a feather in our cap. It's a fantastic program that prepares our kids for college. We have something called Digital Arts Technology Academy, also known as DATA, that starts in 10th grade. You can go to the DATA link from the counseling page and read all about that. Avid, I already discussed in the prior slide. And then we have career pathways. We have things like woodworking, and kids can actually get a job when they get out of high school as a cabinet maker. We have culinary arts, where they could get their food handling certificate and go into that realm. We also have media and technology and all kinds of cool, fun stuff. Future Panther Night, ideally you would all attend this. It's April 15th, 5 p.m. You will see our bands live performing for you. There'll be lots of clubs with tables encouraging hey, come join our club, robotics, etc. Dance team will be doing a demo, and then we'll have a counseling little setup where all the counselors will be there to you can ask all the questions you would like. Athletics will be represented. Students can go to the student store and get some like Panther swag if they so desire. And during that evening, students will be able to sign up for sports and clubs and so forth. Freshman orientation, this is different. This is during the week of August 11th. We will be sending copious emails. During that time, your student will get dropped off at school. You'll bid them adieu and drive off, and then they will get tours of the campus. They will have their mandatory ID pictures taken. So students, if you're listening, you want to look the way you want to look that day because you're going to be captured on your student ID and you're going to look like that for the entire year. You're going to be picking up your schedule. It's going to be kind of a rough schedule. It's not going to say your room number or your teacher. So kids aren't like, who do you have for such and such? It's going to be the classes they chose, the ones they're scheduled for. Then they're going to take that schedule and they're going to be able to get their books from the library. If they pre-purchase PE clothes, they'll be able to pick them up at that time. And then student activity cards if they would like. And then textbooks, again, I mentioned that already in the library based on their schedule, and a spirit pack if they purchased it ahead of time. The registration resources that you have, first and foremost, would be the link on the website that I showed you earlier where this will be housed, which says registration. And then highly recommend the course list. I can show you that. They have them listed by grade level. It lists how many minutes of homework the student could expect per class period. Like they have class on a Monday, they go home, that's how many minutes they could potentially have. And that's if they're appropriately placed in the course. And then they'll also tell you like the description of the course, which students should read before they just randomly pick electives that friends are, picking. And it'll also tell you anything else the teacher needs you to know about it. There's also a course directory that's comprehensive that lists everything with the entire district list. That's okay as well, but we are more appreciative of our very own teacher course descriptions instead. And then the prerequisite waiver, that's the thing that I mentioned earlier that has to be signed so that we know that parents are aware their students are picking something that might not be the best fit for them. So resources for staying informed include College and Career Center. Students, once they start Newbury Park High School, will often be able to go there and just jump in, and there's wonderful staff folks in there who will help them throughout anything college and career related. But what you could do to get in front of that is to go to the counseling website and then drop down and there's a college and career link, and you should familiarize yourself with all the fantastic resources that live there. There's also, again, the tutoring centers will have that posted at the beginning of each school semester of what the days and the rooms and what subjects are being covered. And then the wellness center, that's an awesome place of zen where students can go if they have anything that's social emotional related. And we have a fantastic therapist awaiting them. And then the counseling office, of course, that's where we all live. And students are welcome to go there as earlier described. Teacher office hours are going to be those Thursdays on that short day at 1:45. So if you see Johnny coming home and he says, I don't have anything to do, and you check Q and Canvas and lo and behold, there's missing assignments, then Johnny should have been at school during office hours, finding out why, he couldn't figure out the homework. Counseling website, as previously mentioned, has a calendar on it with testing, with holidays and so forth. We send Principal Samora's newsletters. So once school begins, you'll be getting those on a regular basis. Students and parents highly recommend that you read them because there's a lot of good information. 9 times out of 10, I'll have a kid come to my office and ask a question. I was like, did you read this some more? Because it was everything you just asked me was on there yesterday. And then the main website again. So for those of you that are overwhelmed because I talk so fast trying to fit all this information in there and you have no questions, thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and you're free to escape. And for those of you that have questions, this would be the time that we will happily answer them. So who wants to kick the questions off?
Give us a second. We will unmute. We'll allow unmute you for the people that raised their hand. Here is one. So once you see that you are unmuted, you could speak just as long as someone else isn't speaking at the same time.
I wish to know if somebody is a native speaker of a language, say, for example, like French, are they still able to take the French course? Because there's no like French for French speakers.
The answer is they can, absolutely. And so yeah, if you email that, you can email our counseling secretary, the counselor, and we can give you the email address of our French teacher. And she would love to reach out to you and assess the student. And if the student happens to be able to meet a particular baseline, she might put your student in French 3 or even IB French. That's not unheard of. The other option is if a student is very fluent in French, that student could take the AP test in French. And if that student does so and earns a passing score, from a college perspective, that passing score on the AP test would have been equivalent to having had the minimum 2 years in high school. So those are two options available for anyone who is a native Spanish speaker, a native Mandarin speaker, native French, and we also have ASL.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, so I had a question regarding intermediate dance. What period is that?
We won't know because each year when we get the schedule, we try to like run the scheduler so that every possible combination, and then it tells us which period the most kids who requested intermediate dance could fit. So it changes by year.
Okay, so then when can my daughter, I guess, audition for that? Because she's going to be in chamber orchestra, and one of our neighbors who's also who's in the intermediate class said it was at the 6th period, and that's when chamber orchestra is. So
yeah, so I'll show you. So I'll share my screen. Let me go with that, and then I'll go with this, and then we'll go with here. Let me escape from there. Okay. So on the counseling website, what you could do to reach any teacher who is going to be audition, etc. When you go to course descriptions here, and then when you scroll and it says audition application courses, and click here, it'll have all the teacher contacts for like broadcasting, dance team. So there's Miss Carolyn's email. You can email her, and she would probably know where she wants her class to fall next year in terms of the period. And she could tell you where it's historically been and if there's any plans on possibly changing that. So we have this for not only orchestra, but also broadcasting. We also have it for the IB dance. And then for kids who want to go into like advanced journalism, yearbook, all of those are here. And there's the contacts listed.
Okay, great. And then the second question I had is, we were told from Ms. Wong, the chamber orchestra teacher, that the kids in chamber orchestra had to take another class during the summer in order to be in orchestra. So
the only reason that would be the case is if they're taking that and they also want to take, for example, another language, and most kids that are college bound do that. So already they're looking at 2 of the 6 periods being, not burned up, but not being able to have another course. And if that student, let's say, also needs PE and doesn't play a sport, but remember, we also offer a 7th period PE. So if you just look at it as a math equation, and if the 6 things that you want will fit, then no summer school is required. But if you're like, oh, wait, I want 8 things and there's only 6 spots, okay, I can do one with the 7th period, but oh, there's still one missing. That's when I would consider taking something in summer.
okay, yes. So our daughter will not be able to take a 7th period because she has some extracurricular things she does after school. So we signed her up to take health over the summer, but that's 1 semester. So then the 2nd semester, I thought I was told, and I was told to check with her counselor at Newbury Park High School on this one. So she'll take the health and be in chamber orchestra, but then the 2nd semester, what does she do? Is that a question I should ask her?
So health is 1 semester. So so the kids who are at Newbury Park, we pair health with ethnic studies, and in the past it's been with college and career. So if a student takes health in summer, they don't have to take the 2nd semester. The state has a requirement for ethnic studies that's coming down the pike. But currently, right this second, if your daughter were to do as you had mentioned, then she would take the health, and then that would free up a spot for her to be able to fit the orchestra.
Okay, and then the 2nd semester she can do like theater or something like that?
The orchestra would be all semester. So her schedule would be in English, a math, a science, probably a world language, probably the orchestra, and then I'm assuming PE.
Okay.
She could also do, and remember, even with extracurricular, responsibilities outside of school, the 7th period classes only meet 1 day a week. So we have had some kids who are athletes, for example, who do a hybrid class and they talk with the teacher beforehand and say, would we be able to meet during office hours? Would we be able to meet on Tuesdays when I don't have church, responsibilities or volunteering or whatnot? So a seventh period is another possibility.
Okay, so you're saying seventh period is once a week on the same day?
Right. So when you look on that reg form that I had earlier in the slide deck, it has the day that each one meets. So I think if my memory serves me, I think the online PE is like Thursdays. And then the rest of it's all on the student. It's all hybrid off campus.
Mr. Napora, you have about 18 hands raised. So I just want to let everybody know you could also write your questions in the Q&A and counselors could answer questions there, or all the people that have their hands raised have their mics unmuted now. So they're welcome to ask or put their questions in Q&A at the top.
I don't see the Q&A, so I'll ask my question real quick.
Yeah.
As I'm on my phone. If we want to get a MyVCCD account, do we first go to Moorpark College and sign up under dual enrollment? Is that the first step?
So I'll show you this. So basically, when you're on the council website again and you go to links, so let's go back to the beginning. You're like, wow, there's too much stuff. So here's links. And if a student goes to the Moorpark College link, this is just our link to Moorpark. You could also do this through Moorpark, but as a time saver, we put a presentation from Moorpark right here. When you click on it, it takes you through every step that a student's going to have to do. So your middle school kids are going to have to first apply, right? And then they're going to have to set up their portal. And then they're going to have to submit this dual enrollment form to their current counselor at the middle school. And then, and only then, will they be able to register for the course. And dual enrollment kids cannot register until May. So we don't know if kids are going to get in a Moorpark class. And even though the parents are like, we're taking a Moorpark class, I'm like, maybe you are. So if a kid tells us that when we're meeting with them, we're still going to put a course on their schedule as if Moorpark didn't exist, because we won't know if the kid gets a spot. And then we tell the kids, if they do get a spot, then to reach out to us and we'll adjust their schedule accordingly.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I'm just wondering if ethnic studies is required for the class of 2029, or is it starting in 2030 that it's required?
We're still waiting on the state for that. So when it is required, we'll definitely have it. We'll get in front of it and we'll let parents and students know. But for right now, for the next year, they haven't told us that it is a requirement. If it were, then that would be included in the presentation on like required courses towards graduation.
Got it. Okay, so it's not included right now. So if our student takes health like over the summer to free up a period, they're not going to be required to enroll in ethnic studies at this point.
And if they do, it'll be a blast out to everybody, and it'll change on the district website. Like, as of this date, this is the requirement and so forth. We just believe, it's a fantastic course. So for the kids who are able to take it, they rave about it. But if a student is taking something off campus and it happens to be health, then that could open up that period that you might need for the other response. Yeah, that could work.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
If you're taking a spring sport, do you gotta take PE like before it?
Nope. So if you're going to play a spring sport every year, so that's times 4, that's your 20 credits and that's your PE. You could, if you wanted, take both. And then if you go over in credits, the extra credits will just go toward your electives. So some kids do both. The other thing is if you don't know you're going to make it to a team, like you can't imagine the number of kids that are like, my kid's going to play baseball. And then the kid's like, oh, I didn't make the team. So if you're reasonably certain that you absolutely are going to play a sport, then you could leave PE off your schedule. And then if we had to make it up later on, like, okay, then 10th grade will put you in PE and then in 11th grade PE, that could still work.
All right, thank you.
Among the seventh period classes, I saw that mock trial is there, and I heard it is every day, or is it once a week mock trial?
Let me look on the actual, if it's listed on there, it should tell us. So here's the course registration. Here's Rising. ninth graders. Got it. Where are we? Rising freshmen. Okay, so here's the third page, mock trial. It says in person. So yeah, I think because they do actual mock trial stuff, that's not online-ish. So I think they do meet the majority of days because they're actually doing mock trials. You could reach out to the instructor and ask her, because it says application required. That earlier page I showed you, you could send her an email and she could give you their exact schedule.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you take health over the summer, where would you take it?
So we don't offer health in the summer except through the Get Ahead program, but you could literally take it at any accredited school. So on the links page from counseling where it says acceleration, which is what you're talking about, it says what is acceleration, and then there's a whole thing about reading like why you may or may not want to actually do that. But when you scroll down a little further and it says where can I take it, it says examples of programs here, and you click that. This is a list of some places kids have taken them from in the past, but note that it's not comprehensive. So there are hundreds more places than this, but this just happens to be where many of our kids have chosen in the past, and there are links to them. So you guys could literally take it anywhere you want, and if it's accredited, we don't care where you took it. We just want to make sure you got a grade and 5 credits.
Okay. Also, we're like for 0 period, I'm planning to take concert choir, and it says teacher permission. So would I ask like the high school teacher?
Yeah, so what you would do is you would go to so what would happen is here, so when you go to the course descriptions, and then when you go back to audition, and then you click here, it'll tell you for each thing, like here's concert, orchestra, choir. Let's see if choir's on there. Yeah, this is the guy you would talk to. So email him and say, hey, I am a singer, and what do I do? And he'll let you know when the auditions will be.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the 0 period orchestra. Does that include the chamber orchestra and the concert orchestra as well, or is it something different?
So I think this year, and my colleagues could correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that 0 period was the one that was open to all. And then I think our other orchestras were during the school day. So I recommend, in terms of how it's going to be set up next year, that'll be up to the actual director. So I would reach out to her right here. It's Miss Huang. And if you email her, she's fantastic about getting back to you, and just tell her, you know, a little bit about your student's experience level and so forth. And she also knows all the middle school instructors, so she'll tell you exactly what you can do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi there. I have a question about fulfilling the PE requirement through sports. So how many sports do you need to play each year? And if you do decide to fulfill it that way, can you use your PE period as a free block?
So a good question. The way you could use a PE period as a free block is if a student plays a sport in both fall and spring, because the 2 of those courses together would equal 1 course.
Chamber choir?
I'm so sorry. I can't hear your response because someone's talking. I didn't hear anything of what you said. I'm so
So basically, if you play a sport, it's 5 credits. So if a student plays 2 sports 1 year, that's 10. And it just needs to be 20 before you graduate. And to your point, if a student wants a free period for playing a sport, it needs to be a sport each semester. So that's the way. So let's say a fall and a spring sport, boom, that could be a free period. Yes.
Okay, hi.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had 2 questions. One, I didn't see cheerleading on the auditions. Did we need to audition for like try out for cheer, or is it like you sign up?
Yeah, so cheer, what you'll see for like athletics, there's a NPHS athletics. So anything sport related whatsoever, you would go to the NP Athletics website, and then you would look by what season it is. And then for whatever it is, it'll have the contact for that particular thing. So you could reach out to the coaches that way for cheer, like here's your cheer. For stunt, for example, and then just say, oh, hey, I'm interested in cheer, and when are tryouts, and that person will, so when I click on this, for example, it'll take me to the stunt cheer, and then it'll show you who the actual contact would be.
Okay, and the other question was, I am currently like in my last year of a like foreign language that I learn. Since I'll be finishing the course by the time I'm already in 9th grade, I'll finish the entire course. So would I still have to take a foreign language, or would I like get to skip that?
So quick question, what's the language?
It's Kannada. It's like an Indian language.
So if you have an accredited transcript that shows that you earned credits and it's from an accredited school, that's what colleges will require, and they would count courses taken in the middle school. The problem is there's no AP course for that I'm aware of, so you wouldn't be able to demonstrate proficiency that way. So it's all going to hinge on whether or not wherever it is you're taking it is accredited. So the way you can typically find that out is by going to the UC path. It's a UC A through G list pathway. Let's see. And then if it's on here, for example, and you type in the name of the school, like we type in Newbury Park, and then you'll look at, oops, sorry, that was Newbury Park High. And then it'll tell you Newbury Park, these are all our courses that are on the list. So because we're accredited, these are all the courses that would count. And when you look at our world language, colleges will say, oh, okay, it's an accredited school. So I can't answer that with certainty that what you took is going to count unless the school's accredited and issues an official transcript.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I just take health 7th period and not ethnic studies?
You could. That is a possibility. There is a health that's hybrid, period 7, and if you did take that, that would open up an entire period during 1 through 6.
Okay. Also, when will athletics start? Because I'm planning to take 7th period Spanish or health, and also with like a sport like cross country or football.
So fall, for example, if you check out like, oh, I'm going to play football, and probably JV is my guess. This is their like schedule of games and so forth. So I would reach out to this teacher who's also one of our teachers, and he'll let you know everything you need to know. Because from what I know, our football team starts practicing in like summer.
Oh, okay. But do you think the 7th period would coincide with the sports?
So what you could do is you could ask Miss Baum, who's the health teacher. And so let's say school begins and you're in your 7th period class and you tell her you're an athlete. I know that a lot of the teachers have been able to work with the athletes in terms of when they meet, but I believe health meets 2 times a week. So you would just have to figure out like what those times were and whether or not that would conflict with football, because I know that sports can't start until after the school day, but 7th period is after the school day. So in your particular case, if you were trying to fit it, I mean, health at another time might be more appropriate. And if you played football in the fall and another sport in the spring, then technically you could have one of your periods free if you needed to. So that's a possibility as well.
All right. Also, one more question. Sorry. How will I need a phone in high school?
I'm sorry. How what?
How will I need a phone in high school?
Oh, you don't need phone like cell phone?
Yeah.
So the state's moving toward restricting cell phones because they're such a distraction in class. So we don't force kids to have cell phones. In fact, our teachers would prefer that they're like in phone jail. Like parents just keep them at home if the students aren't able to like use them appropriately. We do have Chromebooks for all our students. And so every student will be issued a Chromebook and you'll be able to do anything the teacher's expecting you to do with just that Chromebook. Sometimes teachers might have students take out a phone for a Kahoot or something like that. But I think with the way the state's moving and the way screen time's negatively impacting kids, I think we're moving toward like, let's not have cell phones in class kind of world.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So we're from outside the district, and I've done the registration and the pre-enrollment and everything. When do we meet with you guys, since you don't come to our school for the courses, or do we just fill it out on our own and turn it into to you guys?
So usually it depends, and it depends on if the level of questions you might have or assistance you might need. But typically what will happen is the registrar, once they register you, we will get an email and CC'd on it with your alpha counselor saying, please welcome, Susie Smith to Newbury Park High School from, et cetera. She'll send us a copy of your transcript, and then we'll respond to you and say, hey, here's the course registration form, which you're saying you've already probably filled out. And then here's the presentation if you haven't seen it, but you're watching it. And so at that point, we ask you then to send us back the copy of the registration form as best you can fill it out. And then my colleagues might all do things slightly differently, but then I'll usually be like, hey, what's a cell phone and a good time to reach you? And then I'll call you and be like, hey, what kind of questions might you have? And that's usually the most convenient for a parent than trying to set aside time to like work around, because we're still currently working with our couple thousand students. And so sometimes parents and students are more appreciative of just us reaching back out to them and having a conversation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a follow-up question. So I heard that for concert choir, you don't have to do auditions for it.
So one of our choirs, if you look on that course reg form, so here's the secret. If you look at like the course, so here's us, we're going to course registration again. And then here's us going to like, oh, I'm a rising freshman, right? So here's the contract. And if you look at page 2, and if you see concert, band, tell me where you see it. Anywhere? Band, broadcasting, orchestra.
It's for 0 period.
Which one?
0 period.
Oh, so yeah, 0 period. If it's under 0 period, the teachers told us that it would be what's next to it. So if it says concert choir, teacher permission, then I would talk to Mr. Sargent and at least email him and say, hey, is it true? And if he's like, oh, wait, that's a misprint, you don't need to get permission, then we'll just add it to your schedule.
Okay, because I'm in choir currently too right now in 8th grade.
Yeah, then I'm assuming you'd probably be trying out anyways, and then he might like bump you up a level. Like that's totally possible. And so it's all based on him like hearing you sing, and then he'll tell us where to put you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding this 7th period health. If you take health, it's a semester course, right? So do we have to take ethnic studies for the remainder, or do we have a choice of opting something else?
No, but if it's 7th period health, then that's either the fall or the spring, because that's the only, you could also take the hybrid if you wanted to. So if a student wants to take the health and get the experience of ethnic studies, that is a possibility. And those are 1 semester each. But if you take health and then you wanted like, Spanish 2, for example, that wouldn't work because most of those classes are full year-long classes.
So what do you do for the remainder of like half semester? It's free, like.
Well, remember it's period 7, so it's after the school day.
Okay.
So basically, if you take health out of the main school day, period 1 through 6, that gives you an entire period to take a year-long class. And then if you take health in the fall or the spring, when you're done with it, you're just done with it and you go home at the normal time of the day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you say that you do offer ASL, and is it available every year?
We do, but it doesn't start till to become an available option until 10th grade. The reason being is because we have only 3 levels of ASL and we have 1 teacher. So we need to make sure that the students get it in a timely fashion and able to be able to take all 3 years if need be. So we just didn't open it up to freshmen. So in 10th grade, if there is a available spot, then you could start it at that point and still finish all 3 levels we have by the end of your senior year.
Okay, is that something with dual enrollment?
So the only dual enrollment I know of that offers ASL is, I believe, Oxnard College. And to find out if they have one that would work with your schedule and so forth, you'd have to look at the Oxnard College schedule. Usually they're moving away, not from letting high schools in, but because it's a singleton class as well at Oxnard College. I think there's only 1 section a semester, and it opens first to returning college students, and then new college students, and then high school kids are last. So you're welcome to try. It would be great if you could, but yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. I have an A+ in science right now, so would I take like Earth Science per IEP or Earth Science CP?
Oh, CP, unless you have an IEP, and then if you do, then your case manager would let us know which one was appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has a question?
There's about 7 more people that have their hands raised, and I unmuted them.
Okay.
So feel free to speak up.
Okay, hi there. Is the ethnic studies part of the UC and CSU requirement?
No, no, not at the moment. But what's cool, and let me just show you this because we believe it's a fantastic course, is when you go to UC A through G list. So whether or not it's a requirement, we also want to know which courses are on the A through G list that could be counting toward things like GPA and so forth. So when you go to Newberry and you type in literally any course that we have to offer, show you, it's thinking, not sure why it's slow. It's angry, but yeah, not sure what's going on with that.
I'm happy with the ethnic studies course. I was under the impression that they needed it, like it was part of a UC CSU requirement, which is why it got kicked down and why we're working on it at the high school levels now. Because that's why all the junior colleges all have it and they're trying to hustle their kids into courses.
The Cal States do require ethnic studies for their graduation requirement, but it must be a college level ethnic studies, not a high school ethnic studies class.
Oh, okay. So they still would have to take it. Okay, good to know. I was misinformed.
And it's my understanding that this year's 7th grade class will have to take ethnic studies for a graduation requirement.
I think it has to be, we're taking ours to the board. I'm VCOE and I'm writing it, but we have to take ours to the board and we're late to the game. But for next year, it has to be adopted and ready to roll. So.
I think, yeah, they're probably getting in front of it that way, and then they'll probably be the next calendar year. But I'm sure that if and when UC does do that, then there'll be a flurry of activity.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. If my child wants to do wind ensemble and a language, would it be advisable that she does health during the summer?
Depends on if she wants to do PE. So for example, if she does PE online, then you could still fit English and a math and a science, right? And an elective and so forth. So if she's an athlete and plays 2 sports a season, that gives her another free spot. So then you probably wouldn't have to, but how is she going to get her PE?
Well, that brings my follow-up question does marching band count for PE?
So we no longer have a marching band, and that's sad because a lot of kids were super into that. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but that is not an option for PE credit at Newbury Park at the moment. So if she wanted to get PE during the hybrid period, then she's got an open spot there. She could also do like the hybrid period, and that gives her an open spot. So it is possible to fit the 2 things you mentioned without summer school. So summer could be an option if she doesn't want to be overwhelmed or something along those lines, but it's definitely feasible for her to do it at Newberry.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you do take health over the summer, on the form where it says health, would you just not fill it out?
So here, let's see, I'll show you so I can see it while we're talking about it at the same time. So on freshman contract, here's us. So here where it says health, then what you would do is you would just draw a line through health and ethnic studies and then put the course you want here and then the alternates for that course here. And then down below, you would just put health in summer and then the location, and then you could put the course you want there. I mean, there's lots of different ways to fill this out, but as long as we get the idea of what you're wanting, we're able to put it in queue for you. But that would be the easiest way for us to see what you were doing.
Okay, so for the location, if it's like online, would I just like put like where, like what website I'm taking it on?
Yeah, and the reason we do that is because then let's say we meet you and it's some place we've never heard of. We're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're just trying to save you the pain of like spending a bunch of money somewhere when you could have taken it probably free. Like, there's a whole bunch of parents telling me like, I heard Ivy Tech is a lottery. And I'm like, well, they're not the only school that's accredited, right? So if you have a place in mind, it's better for us to kind of know if it's going to happen or not. Because some kids just say, I'm taking health in summer. And when we're like, where? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, when are you going to sign up? They're like, I didn't. So yeah, that's just more or less to like verify, because if you tell us that's what you're doing, we will leave it off your schedule. The downside of that is I can't tell you the number of kids who tried this, didn't get health, and then suddenly it's senior year and they're like, oh man, I still haven't had health.
Okay. And for where it says like course I want if I complete summer school, like alternative choices.
Yeah, that's kind of just like a repeat. So what you put there and the two alternates is pretty much the same thing you're going to put here and those two alternates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion. It was hard to make like a form that like did everything we wanted to, so there might be some overlap.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to clarify, your schedule is a block system at Newbury Park High School, correct? And except Thursdays and Fridays are the shorter days.
Right. So the trick is we used to be a hybrid of a pure block and a block. Like some schools, block means you take 3 classes in the fall that are year-long equivalents, and then you have 3 more classes in the spring that are completely different, which are also year-long. So we're a block schedule for timing, which means the kids are in 100 minutes every other day. So yes, we are a block, but I know there's different terminology for a block.
But they
so the kids will
each
they
day.
alternate.
Okay.
Yep.
And then every
schools-
Thursday and Friday is a shorter day.
Correct. And it'll be like 135 one week and 2, you know what I mean? So English might be Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, and Tuesday, Thursday the next, which one falls on a short day. And
Yeah,
it just keeps alternating throughout the
So
year.
it moves each week. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, the good way to just like, for those of you that want to like put it on a refrigerator each year when it comes out, if you just go to like links here, because I know how frustrating it could be for a kid to remember like what. So when you click like A, B odd, this is what it looks like here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
They get it better than I do.
yeah, the first time, yeah, sometimes kids are in our office, we're like, what day is it today? Is it odd or even? Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other hand uppers want to shoot off a question?
Can you show me one more time how you navigated to this PDF, please?
Sure. So it's on links and then alphabetical, like my brain just thinks better like alphabetically, and it's A-B calendar.
Got it. Thank
and
you.
I don't know why that one's spelled wrong, but I'll fix that. That's Clanadar. So, and so not only do we have that, but we have so many other cool things, like if kids want to know about SAT testing and preparation and study skills. So it's pretty much, if it's, we think it's important, it's there to live.
Hi, I just had a question. So if in case a student takes couple of credits out of CVUSD, like summer school method or IB bound, are there a certain number of credits which go, like you can only take certain credits out of CVUSD?
Yes. Excellent question. So when kids click the acceleration remediation link here, and then it walks down and it has a policy. So the policy to which you're referring, let me get this out of the way. It's 40 credits off campus. So let me find it right here. When this is highlighted, when you click it, it's got the policy for our district regarding off-campus coursework. And rather than have you read all this, the bottom line is they can take up to 40 credits off campus other than like Moore Park College, because that doesn't count against the 40. And they can apply those to the Newbury Park transcript toward graduation. But there are kids who take lots of classes off campus who don't care about them going on to the Newbury Park transcript, because they know that when they apply to college, that they'll submit transcripts from wherever it is they attended. So the only thing kids need to put on the Newbury Park High transcript are courses that are required for graduation. So if a kid takes, basket weaving off campus, they don't have to put it on our transcript unless they want to, because they're short on elective credits. But if they take, for example, health off campus, they absolutely need that to go on the Newbury Park transcript because it is a graduation requirement.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Answers a lot of questions. Can you just, if you don't mind, tell me where can I find this document?
Sure. So when you go to the main links, here's my alphabetical brain, links, and then it's under acceleration remediation.
Okay.
And then when you scroll down, it's buried right about here.
Thank you so much. Great help.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi there. I
Hello.
have a very quick question. Hi. I have a quick question regarding sports. My daughter plays softball. I know that's not until spring. So in the event she does not make the team, do we, let's just say it started in fall. So if she picks another sport, tries out, doesn't make it, do I just register her for regular PE? And then if she makes the team, that would fall off her schedule? Or how do we approach
So the
PE?
teams, we never put anything team related until or unless a coach gives us a roster of names, because so many kids think they'll make it. So we just tell the kids if they think they may not make it on a team, then PE would be a great backup. But if she plays a sport in fall every year and just one sport, that's her 20 credits. It's only dicey or iffy if the kid thinks they're going to play a spring sport and they don't make it. So if that won't apply to sports that are non-cut, they do have track and so forth. There are some that are less competitive than others. But it all depends on the talent of the kids that year, whether a kid will get a spot.
And
Sure.
some
So
students,
then
you can be in
Go
a
ahead.
PE and a sport.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I say she could also, if she registered for PE and then was also on a sport team, that can happen too. Some students do, and anything they take after the 20 credits then goes toward elective, toward PE. So some ninth graders do it's PE and a sport.
So I guess my concern is, we want to make sure she gets PE, but we'd prefer it to be, the sport of her choice. So once you put PE on, that, is there, that'll be what it is, right? There's no alternate should she make a team.
Well, she could pick one of several different types of PE, or she could pick PE as an online class period 7, which is totally fine. And theoretically, if she was in PE online in the fall, and then she got on the sport, she could drop that PE class at the semester, because if you drop a year-long class at semester, she would just earn the grade from that first semester, and then she would have her sport the second semester. There are kids who do that.
Oh, okay. So do an online for the fall.
Online. We have a Newbury Park. We have a Newbury Park online PE. She just meets once a week, and then she uses physical activity from outside of school, and she keeps a log, and she goes on Canvas, and she does the assignments, and then at the end of the semester, boom, she's got her grade, and then she could jump into her sport.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's still 8 hands that are raised. Feel free to ask your questions now.
I think some of them might have already asked the question still. We'll give it another 2 minutes for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Napora, for doing an awesome job.
You're most welcome, and thanks to everybody who's still in the audience for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions like written or no on the chat?
Yeah, I'm answering some still.
Okay.
I was wondering if I'm taking geometry over the summer, then would I still put geometry in like the course list in math, or would I put algebra too? Because I'm not
So
sure.
if you're absolutely certain you're taking the geometry, like you're already registered for it, then it would be safe to go ahead and just put the algebra 2, and then we'll see down in that little block that you're taking geometry, and then you tell us where you're taking it, and then we'll just go ahead and not put geometry, and then we'll go ahead and put you in algebra 2. But notice, know this rather, you are able, only with algebra and geometry, if you wanted to, we would allow you to double up. So it is possible for the students who are extraordinarily motivated and they're trying to get a year ahead in math, they could take Algebra 1 honors and Geometry honors, or they could take Geometry honors and Algebra 2 honors if they so desired. The downside with taking anything in summer that's sequential is I have no doubt you'll get a great grade and you're like, yay, I took geometry. But remember, that's like a 6-week compressed course. And then by the time you take an SAT test or an ACT test or whatever, like years down the road, I don't know how much you'll remember from a compressed 6-week course. And both the SAT and the ACT have a lot of geometry on it. So we're happy if you want to take it off campus and we'll put you in algebra. But that's just something I wanted to put out there in case you wanted another option.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any more questions in the Q&A box. We're good there.
Thank you all for attending.
I think, Kim, did you have I think we could take one more question. I think Kim was starting to ask a question. Yeah.
I was just wondering, is band 0 period only?
No, there's different levels of band. So there, where it's at, but I think it's like wind ensemble honors and so forth. So they're different names. So there is a band 0. There's like a jazz ensemble, and then there's several other band periods during the day. So on the page when you go to links, course descriptions, and then when you go to audition application, the person you would want to talk to is Mr. Crystal. He's the band director. So anything band related whatsoever should be here. So Dennis Crystal. So he's not only jazz band honors, but also band. So anything with band whatsoever, he's the guy.
So usually how that works is you have to take wind ensemble, which is band, which is during the day, and then you have to try out for either jazz band or honors jazz band, and that is a 0 period. But you have to take both. You have to take a class during the day. Oh, well, excuse me. So you have to take band if you are going to do jazz as a 0 period.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then, so if my daughter wants to do theater and band, she has to pick one or the other?
Well, theoretically, if she did a 0 period band and then a regular period band and theater, that's 2 blocks of the 6 during the day. And so she could still make that happen if she did like health online period 7 or online PE. So it could still work.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, should we wrap it up?
Sure.
Any more questions? I think we're good. All right, thank you, Mr. Napora, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks.